Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast, Mastering the Transition from Therapeutic Preclinical Development to Manufacturing Fill and Finish. I'm Tim Wright, editor of Contract Pharma, and a quick word about our sponsors today. The sponsors of today's session are Argonaut Manufacturing Services and KBI Biopharma. Argonaut is a contract manufacturer whose fill-finish capabilities feature advanced isolator technology for sterile injectable drugs, including biologics, peptides, oligos, and vaccines. Diagnostic and life science manufacturing capabilities include formulation, filling, kitting, and lyophilization. With full analytical quality control, warehousing, and global shipping, Argonaut offers flexible outsourcing solutions for innovators across life sciences, molecular diagnostics, and biopharma industries. And KBI Biopharma, they're a global CDMO providing fully integrated, accelerated drug development and biologics manufacturing services. As a global leader in mammalian cell line development with best-in-class modular technology and highly specialized solutions, KBI enables the life sciences industry to rapidly discover, develop, and commercialize innovative medicines and vaccines. If you'd like to learn more about each company, feel free to click their logos at the top of the page. Okay, so today I'm joined by two experts. And first, I'm joined by Wayne Woodard. He's the CEO of Argonaut Manufacturing Services. And with over 30 years experience in operations, supply chain, and general management, Wayne's primary focus in 3 different industries has been on building global operations capabilities with particular emphasis on working with external manufacturing services companies. He most recently worked at Thermo Fisher through its Ion Torrent acquisition. And we are also joined today by Katie Edgar. Katie is the Chief Business Officer at KBI Biopharma. She brings over 20 years of experience in strategic planning, corporate development, business operations, legal affairs, and portfolio and alliance management. Katie's career has supported a multitude of functional areas, including vaccines, therapeutics, venture capital, manufacturing, real estate, mergers and acquisitions, and sports and entertainment. Before joining KBI, Katie spent 4 years with Novavax building and leading their global licensee product portfolio, as well as supporting their licensee and CDMO commercial COVID vax launch in multiple markets globally. So today in this webinar, Katie and Wayne are going to be discussing challenges unique to organizations scaling up biopharma production. So hopefully by the end of today's session, you'll have learned how to identify and overcome some of these obstacles by leveraging best practices utilized by both these organizations. And you'll also learn about how finding and selecting the right outsourcing partner for your project can make or break the success of your program. We will be accepting your questions throughout the talk, so please take advantage of this opportunity to get the advice you need from these high-level thought leaders. You can submit your questions using the box at the bottom of your screen, and questions will be answered after the talk in a brief Q&A. And lastly, before we get started, if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, you can type those into the question box as well, and someone on the back end here will help you out. So first, Wayne and Katie, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Appreciate it very much.
You're both pretty good there. So first, before we kind of get into the conversation about your partnership, can you first say a few words about Argonaut and KBI to give us some background about each company?
Sure. I'll start with Argonaut Manufacturing Services. We started the company almost 9 years ago. Our focus has been being a leader in the contract manufacturing services environment, in particular in our biopharma services, as much of what we're going to be talking about today. But we also have some other opportunities that we support in terms of combination products and our life sciences and diagnostic market that we support as well. We have a little over 110 people in the organization today, and we are located in Carlsbad, California, about 45 minutes from downtown San Diego, and have a great team of people that we work with now for in some cases, some of our team members have worked together for over 25 years. So it's been a great team that we put together here at Argonaut.
Indeed it is. Well, thank you for having me join you, and thank you, Tim. Brief introduction about KBI. So KBI was formed in 1996, an analytical services company. Actually started right here where we're sitting today, which is in North Carolina. It has grown, obviously, significantly over the past 25 years, but full service CDMO manufacturing, starting with cell line development through through drug substance. Together we make fill finish. But really started off in analytical. And what we've seen is an opportunity to grow and add both mammalian and microbial facilities that complement global developing worldwide. So we have a footprint in Geneva, Switzerland, which is where our Center of Excellence for Cell Line Development exists. Here we have our Center of Excellence in mammalian manufacturing, and in Colorado is where we house our microbial Center of Excellence in manufacturing. I would say that KBI, a lot of different opportunities have afforded us an opportunity to continue to focus on growth, not just for the manufacturing and drug substance, but analytical formulation development, and really looking forward into the future, how we then can translate that as we enter into more of the fill finish opportunities together. So hopefully we'll get into that a little bit more today.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank you both for that. All right, so maybe to start the discussion, can you both maybe talk about what you see some general trends that are driving biopharma manufacturing and fill finish specifically currently?
Yeah, Tim, in particular, I would say the trends that you're seeing today, in particular, that focus on things that I think both KBI and Argonaut do really, really well, is a focus toward more of a decentralized model, which requires companies to contemplate smaller lot sizes, more agile manufacturing capability, and the desire for people to really look for a complete solution from beginning to end in the journey within the supply chain, from when molecules are decided upon, which makes sense to move forward, all the way to commercialization of that product. How do you link all of these pieces in the supply chain a little more effectively?
Yeah, I think fully agreed. From my perspective, I think we continue to see opportunities for specialization, which also afford opportunities for synergies and partnerships. Right. So, for me, the market obviously continues to make technological and innovative advancements, continuous improvement, being at the forefront of those, making sure we understand the needs of our customers, and really creating that bespoke customer experience continues to be something that is top of mind for us. And as a result, I think what we're seeing is, very much more customer-centric minded prioritization of what those efforts then translate to and how we meet those needs based on the services that we're providing.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what Katie said there. It is really, really important that we really understand what customers' needs are throughout that supply chain, and making sure that there is levels of transparency that perhaps in the past have not been required as often, and sort of seen as disparate different parts of a supply chain that aren't fully linked together. And so I think that's kind of really part of what we're talking about today.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, great, thanks. I'm going to click through here. So we want to kind of officially begin to talk about your guys' partnership. I think it was just about a little over a year ago, am I correct, when Argonaut and KBI announced their partnership? Could you both walk us through the decision-making process that led your two companies to form the tie-up?
Good, really great question. Yeah, so when we envisioned this concept, and I'll speak from an Argonaut perspective, but I think it's very much a shared vision here. When we thought about what we were trying to develop, we began a conversation, a journey to look for what we considered to be, the best-in-class people to work with to form ecosystem partnership relationships. These are the things that we call them as ecosystem partners. We wanted to align with people in this supply chain. Much of my career has been in the world of supply chain and understanding how the supply chain, how we're working from the customer all the way through to all the way back to the supplier's supplier is a really important aspect of what I think helps supply chains to modernize and improve. And so for us, we wanted to really look at drug substance provider that would be an excellent fit culturally, a good fit in terms of what we're really wanting to do. And we started to have this dialogue with the folks at KBI at a conference and talked a little bit about it. And they really liked it. They really thought it was something that made a ton of sense. It answers some very specific needs that we've had customers share with us. And I think when we're looking at it from a services business, and we're both in the business of service and support for clients, you have to be really listening to these guys on a regular basis. I don't know if you have anything.
Well, I mean, to kind of add, for me, it's interesting. We talk a lot about synergy. Yeah. I know we, oftentimes think through, how do we provide the right overall end-to-end experience, but based on each other's, not just synergy, but expertise. Yeah. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but for us, the conversation was so perfectly timed. Again, starting with the needs, right? What are our customers asking for? They want speed to clinic. They want to be able to accelerate their program and really ensure that they've got the right level of expertise to limit any issues that they envision might, come about, make sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can, best in class services, but really ultimately accelerate advancement in the most appropriate hands. So when we saw an increased ask for our customers to be able to enable that, the partnership model with someone like Argonaut, who not only offers, again, best in class services, but very much like-minded in what are the needs of the customers. How do we be able, how can we work together in order to really translate that to acceleration to clinic, but mitigation of risk? Right. And I think that's where we've really afforded each other the opportunity to understand through great communication, great collaboration, but ultimately the synergy of our services to work in parallel to progress those, not only opportunities to clinic, but the right type of partnership model that builds off both of our shared areas of expertise. So for us, and I really do look back on this past year, which feels like it's gone both somewhat slowly, but very quickly, the things that we've put in place that have enabled that. And I think it really starts and ends with the right vision and exceptional communication. And I applaud you and your team because it's been very evident for us since day one, what you've built, the experience, the technical expertise, but really ultimately this feedback loop. And even just an opportunity like today to come and talk with everybody and be here with you and share that experience, I think really demonstrates that. It's a true partnership. Yeah. So.
It is really a true partnership, and we'll talk a lot more about people later in this webinar, but it takes great people who do share a vision and can actually put that vision to work, go execute on that. And we've got a couple of those folks in our room here with us, don't we?
Yes,
and
we do.
We're really proud of them and what they've done, because really at the end of the day, we can talk about this conceptually, we can talk about it as an objective and force the execution, but that doesn't work.
Right.
You need people who really buy into it and see the real value customers that can appreciate from it.
Yep, it's equal parts, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're all about data, all about analytics, but you can't translate data without action. Yeah. So the right team, the right understanding, how we then, again, can put that into what is the much needed plan to effectuate success. We talked about this earlier, right? You can't achieve a goal if you don't articulate what that goal is. Right. And one of the things I really love and appreciate about the team that we've been so fortunate to work with is their ability to really articulate what those goals are for our program. Yeah. Staying on task, staying on time in full. I've seen a tremendous amount of success and really do applaud both teams in not only what they have achieved, but so much on the horizon that they continue to look forward to. So it's been incredible this year, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Great. Maybe we can go into a little bit more detail about the partnership and tell me a little bit about what the partnership covers and specifically more about what unique capabilities each company is bringing to the table.
Sure.
Yeah.
You okay if I lead?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. So, starting off with KBI, what we offer is cell line development through the drug substance. I talked about this a little bit, so I won't go too much further into it, but really ultimately, in order to meet the needs of the customers and accelerate the timelines, we wanted to find the right way to do that with a fill finish partner that could work in parallel with us on some of the activities in order to effectuate that. So depending again on the program, on the customer need, what we offer is everything from what would be the preclinical and certainly the cell line development activities through the drug substance manufacturing. A lot of the drug substance and drug product release testing we would be working on, but that's obviously in parallel with certain activities that are happening at Argonaut. Excuse me, maybe you want to add a little bit of color on.
Yeah. So from the bulk drug substance, when we get that material at Argonaut, we'll go through a process of qualifying and assuring that what we laid out in front of our team is a complete package that KBI will have delivered. All the integration work that's been going on will be synthesized into that fill and sort of everything leading toward that fill. So a lot of work that has been going on the sidelines that maybe KBI hasn't seen or will start to merge with what we're doing. And there's a great collaboration in that linkage. We're going to take that product, complete the formulation work, and get it into our filling lines. And so when we put it into the filling line, of course, we're very, very, very important. Last time, really, humans are going to have much of a contact with it before it meets a patient and in any way. And we're very, very cautious about making sure that that's done correctly. We'll fill the vial. In the future, it'll be syringes and cartridges as well. And we're going to then take that through a release process. That release process will have a lot of information that comes all the way back and forth between drug substance and drug product. And then we're going to complete that release and then hand that material back over to the customers for whatever clinical stage they may be in or where it goes from there, where they take it from there on their side. So that's really that supply chain from, as Katie mentioned, right, the molecule level and the molecule discovery through to, really the finished product that customers are looking to ship to a customer.
Yeah, I want to add maybe one or two pieces to that because I always think it's important. And I go back to one of the first conversations I had with your team. Yeah. We were sitting in the room together and we talked about how do we do a project kickstart. Yeah. And, I think I just want to speak to it because it's one of the things that I've appreciated so much in the way that the teams interact together. It's one project, yeah. Right? So we treat it as a cohesive project together. Yeah. We have an accountable project manager, but we have a team that before we even get started, we're going through a RACI, we're understanding roles and responsibilities, we're making sure that that's clearly delineated and that we are aligned in order to meet those milestones that we've agreed to with our customer. And what I see, and one of the really incredible ways of working is because that accountability is delineated, it really helps us in what needs to happen and the timelines that obviously we're set up for. So I go back to that, one of those first meetings often, and I think about the importance of RACIs. And I raise it here because I think it's important for what I've seen be successful between us. Yeah. But when we do think about, from an industry-wide perspective, how we manage projects, making sure we've got those clear lines, understanding what it is that we're signing up for, that translates. And I think it translates in a very meaningful way. And I've gotten so much great feedback from our customers about what this has now afforded them as a result. Right. So I just want to make sure that I'm giving kudos to your team. Yeah. I appreciated that. That was how we started. Yeah. And quite frankly, where I've seen us continue. Yeah, great. This goes both ways, trust me.
Okay, great. Thanks, you both. All right, let's move on here to the next topic, talking about some of the challenges of partnering. So we know tech transfer often poses significant hurdles. So what kind of proven strategies or best practices can you share with us that you've both found to be effective for ensuring a smooth and efficient transfer process?
I'm thinking. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So, okay. So we're a CDMO. So tech transfer is kind of what we do,
It's
right?
a big deal. Yeah.
Right? Little important. I think the way we look at how we approach a tech transfer always should be, how do we succeed understanding flexibility and adaptability? So there is no perfect process. Every facility is going to have certain constraints, but proactively mitigating whatever those concerns are by appropriate communication, very clear plans, and really ultimately the right approach to having, if it's scalable, flexible, but certainly adaptable solutions that best meet the needs of the project of which we are working on. And again, I consistently see that, and I'm so grateful for that. But I also think it's because Argonaut has built this incredible, nimble, and very flexible team. So I want to not only give accolade there, but stress the importance of that. Going in open-minded, making sure that we're fostering the right type of communication, and continually checking back in on what are the solutions to the problem that we need to solve for our customers.
I think it's a great point you make. I mean, I like to describe it as agility, as a term that really resonates for me on that. It's that ability to understand and adapt when things go bump in the night. And that starts with our PMs, right? On both sides. So, if we engage a project together, though that synergy that you talked about earlier really has to exist with our PMs, and the PMs can make all of this. It's one of the toughest jobs in either of our companies, is having all that responsibility, but none of the, you have all that. Sorry, I should say all that accountability with none of the authority to actually make it happen. Sometimes in your own organization, so you have to be really good at managing that and understanding that. We've got some great PMs on both sides, and I think that's one of those things that really does make this process work. And I think it's also this concept of a bit of standard work. Every time we do one of these projects, we're getting better at understanding how that should work. How is that going to work with a little bit more communication involved, a little bit more accountability for each side, not drifting into too much of a process that only works at Argonaut, but also one that has to work at KBI is important too. So we have to have the teams having those conversations, right. and there does seem to be a spirit of cooperation there to really see this as that, as I said earlier, is a continuous linked chain of activities that need to occur. So a tech transfer does physically have to happen, and something really does change. But if it's viewed within our ecosystem as a single continuous chain, you really do get the best of all worlds for that kind of activity. So that's another one I think that we try to use, and that taking advantage of that agility, making sure the PMs are there, getting as much work as we can do in terms of the sharing that goes on. That's another point that you could make here, is really, our ability to get access to bulk drug substance, non-GMP bulk drug substance to do some early work on our side can make a huge difference. And that's something that's come from this process, is we've learned, hey, do you have some? And we're having that dialogue. And if it weren't for the fact that we were doing that, and we were two separate organizations, we'd be going up and over to a customer and then back down, right. Coming back up and going over again. And we figure out, hey, there's a better way to do this.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's really been a benefit as well.
I've got one more thing to add, because speaking of early conversations, I remember the first time you and I sat down together, and we were in a conference room in Carlsbad, and you asked, what do we do when we have an escalation?
Yeah.
And I kind of, took a seat back, and I'm thinking, well, what a great question. We haven't quite got there yet, right? And that was your suggestion above all else, is we need a mock escalation to know how do we work together to solve problems. Right. And that moment was very much formative for me that this is the type of partnership that we're forming. And I go back to that and I share it here because maybe to go back to my original point, challenges always arise, right? That's just part of it. It's how do we work together to solve them? And do we have the right systems and processes in place so that we know if there is an escalation, when things go bumping, the PMs are calling, how do we solve those together? Do we have the right infrastructure? Have we trained our teams? Do we understand? It's going to make it a lot easier if we've already got that process identified and defined, as opposed to after the fact trying to put the right protocol system in place. So I appreciated that, and I think it's something about mitigating risk by being proactive as opposing to being reactive that helps enable that success.
Great point. Really great point.
Yeah, great points, guys. Thanks so much. All right, let's move on to the next topic here. And we just want to remind everybody out there in the audience to please feel free to submit your questions at any time throughout the discussion. Okay, moving along here, maybe can you both share some insight or share some examples of how you've helped optimize fill finish services for your customers through examples or case studies or just kind of experience working together?
Yeah, one of the things that I will say here, Tim and Katie, we know that, we sometimes are approached by customers in tough situations. They had one set of circumstances. They thought this is the way this project was going to work, and it didn't go that way. And they come to you or they come to us and they say, can you help us? And we've done projects where we've gone from bulk drug substance to filled vials in a matter of weeks. But it's because this was a customer of yours, got into a tough situation before we had built this relationship. Hey, we have a partner. Let's go make this work. Let's figure it out. And we can do that because of that standard work, if you will, that ability to say, we know how to make this work in a very rapid way. I think that's a huge deal for customers. Is they, you can look at that and say, well, maybe somebody else could have done it. I don't think you do it as quick and as efficiently. And I think our ability to have that prearranged for customers to support them makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think, we talk about problem solving, and what you're describing, we've seen, obviously, due to changing circumstances within the market, shifting, regulatory intelligence, obviously an increase very recently in the market that we've seen, which is wonderful for business, but making sure that we're collaborative in how we solve those needs for our customers. I think it's just a quick point to touch on the regulatory intelligence from both teams and our ability to be consistently not only understanding what those needs are of the customers, but working together to proactively solve it in what is a safety first, quality always mindset, as I know shared again between us, but then, translating that to the speed to clinic we were talking about earlier. At the end of the day, our customers want to be successful and they want us to help them solve those problems. It's one of the reasons why I know we love what we do, but it's also one of the reasons why it's so important that we are very proactive in that approach. So I think just, for me, again, it's understanding that the challenges will arise, but the ability for us to be collaborative to solve those problems together. Again, building on those shared expertise and experiences, but with the best interest of what the customer and the program have, has allowed for, I think, some wonderful success stories.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's move on to the next topic here. We've got a couple more to cover. So with supply chain variability continuing to be a problem and disrupt the industry, can you both talk a little bit about how you've managed to keep supply chain risk low, given the problems we've seen in recent years?
Yeah, I'll start here. One of the things that's been great about working in this relationship with KBI is for the first time, really, from our perspective, having so much visibility of opportunities so early for us has allowed us to sit down with clients that we share and say, you know, you're still in the drug substance phase. We know who you're obviously working with. We know the schedule. We know what's happening, and you know, can we go ahead and start to acquire or you know, do some risk buys collectively together on raw materials, or can we second source things? So you have sources for stuff, and we have sources. We've qualified our sources, and you know, we know what we need to get, and then we can talk to you guys about other things that you have, and then how can we, you know, that allows us to move a little bit more efficiently. But I think it's really around material components and the like, for us at least, having so much visibility gives us the ability to negotiate with our supplier base earlier in the process, and hopefully line that up and avoid some of the challenges and disruptions we've seen. It does allow us to stock certain things that we wouldn't have had the option to do, or would feel a little more comfortable about doing if we didn't have more visibility. And now with this relationship, I think it really gives us a great opportunity.
Yeah, and listen, supply chain management is a hot topic, obviously, for a number of reasons. You know, first and foremost, I feel very fortunate. We've got a great team, not only between us, but here at KBI, I really appreciate the S&OP efforts that are ongoing in order to meet what those ongoing obstacles can be without the right level of planning. But I think one of the things that I am also very appreciative of is the approach to partnerships like we have is something similar that we like to do with our vendors and our suppliers, right? So at the end of the day, everybody has their unique value proposition, you know, what it is that they're doing, how they translate that in the market, understanding how we work together to have the right type of planning, understand, again, what those needs are, and then work together, I think serves a number of different purposes. You know, everybody is in this together. At the end of the day, the ecosystem that you're describing, it's all of us. And even though we each have our unique roles to play, understanding how we work better together, that collaboration, not just between us, but externally to the market, the vendors, the suppliers, and really that entire end-to-end supply chain. I've seen a real growth, I think, post-COVID as a result. It changed the way we think about supply. And even though I realize the market is still, you know, somewhat stabilizing, I do feel like it has really stabilized in a way that, exactly. And it's allowed for the right type of conversation and really the right type of planning in order to meet those needs and be successful. So I'm not saying it hasn't been an interesting few years, but I do think it has set us up now to be very clear what we need to be successful and in order to translate that to the programs that we're looking to.
Great choice of words again on the ecosystem side, because it does go both ways. You might have heard of it.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, moving on to the last topic we're going to cover before heading into the Q&A portion of today's session. Can you speak a little bit about efficiency considerations or any tactics that you might utilize that biopharma companies can use to leverage during the uncertainty of today's market?
Yeah, you know, I'll start here again. I think, you know, when I think about efficiencies, I'll go back to that coordination, right? And the coordination translates directly into more efficiency in our relationships. When we understand what is, you know, what's really going on at the drug substance level in our relationship with KBI, it allows us to really pull the kind of necessary information we need to make adjustments and accordingly. And I talked a little bit about getting some of the non-GMP bulk drug substance to us a little earlier allows us to qualify some methods and do some other things that we need to do that, you know, in many cases in our business, we don't talk very often to the drug substance providers.
Right.
And so that's a miss, right? So that's efficiency right there. And then I think it's that, and it allows us to have a transparent conversation about what we're all trying to manage in this window from when we signed that customer up back at drug substance level all the way through to delivery to the customer. So I feel like I have a responsibility not only to our customer, but to KBI as well, to make sure we're delivering that stuff when we said we would get it done. And I'm sure feels the same way for you and your team. So
yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting. I was thinking about this listening to you, and I think about efficiencies often, how to obviously deliver efficiency, but for me, I've been very impressed with the spirit of continuous improvement. Yeah. And I think both of our teams share that. I recognize in the industry it's a term we use often, but it's one that really speaks to the nature of what we need to be successful. Yeah. Efficiency is not just about how quickly you get something done. It's, do you do it in the way that makes the most sense? And are you continually holding yourself accountable to improve how that operation is performed? And what I've seen even in the projects that we've worked on together is these postmortems, right? After the fact, are we looking at lessons learned? Do we understand what we could have done better? What's a case study or something that, this was a hiccup, but we did X, Y, and Z, and as a result, we saw it work. That's continuous improvement. Right. And it's how we enable every project that we work on to just continue to get better. And as CMOs, and to your point, a service provider, you're expected to do that. I would hope that's part of what's in our DNA. But collaborating together to do that is unique. Yeah. And I think it's been something really exceptional that not only helps our respective organizations drive efficiencies, but helps us within these efforts drive efficiencies as well.
Reminds me of one other one too. When I think about efficiencies, one of the amazing benefits of working with KBI is the depth and expertise in analytical and method development work that you guys have is something that we have really made it a priority to continue to leverage more of. Now, we don't do everything from an analytical perspective. Much of what you have to do gets repeated sometimes at the drug product level, and we can take advantage of that and leverage your operations and your capabilities from an analytical perspective. And you're very well known for that. It's a part of what sets KBI apart, and we're real excited about that. And certainly this year, it's a big part of what we want to try to do is qualifying more and more of those more and more of that analytical work through the KBI relationship.
And we look forward to that. No, thank you. I really appreciate the kind words. And I think it does translate to value for our customers and the projects that we're working on. So appreciate it.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Wayne, Katie, for some really great insights there. It's a really good back and forth talk with you two. I can tell you guys partner really well together. All right, we're going to move into the Q&A portion of today's session. So again, if you do have a question for Wayne or Katie or both, please go ahead and enter it now. Let me push the slide here. All right, this first question is a two-parter. So I'll ask the first part, let you answer, and then come back to the second part so we keep it clear. This attendee would like to know, first says, thank you for a great webinar and all the information. She hears a lot about willingness of synergies to work together to develop a new product between you two in partnership. She'd like to know if you can elaborate a little bit more on what you mean exactly by partnership. Maybe some best practices on choosing a partner, how the partnership forms, et cetera.
Sure. Well, the first thing that was top of mind is culture. So, I think at the end of the day, we all have to work together. Yeah. And I don't say work together lightly. I mean, we have to actually do work together. So partnership and alliances in general oftentimes are built in the spirit of understanding not only how that work gets done, but the willingness to want to solve these problems together. From day one, for me, it was a culture fit. Being asked the type of questions that I was asked in the room, I've referenced a couple of them today. And I think that speaks to a mindset that is a growth mindset, that is a problem-solving mindset, and really one that I hope you feel shared between us. But to me, it was always, is this culturally a fit? Obviously, we know the incredible capabilities and technical capabilities of your team, but the ability of our teams to be able to work together to solve problems, I think, is what enables success. And so that became something that was very unique and very much important to us as we made the decision to enter into this partnership. Culture.
Yeah, I think it's culture is absolutely right. Shared vision, shared values, making sure that we know, partnerships are, in this particular case, are part of an ecosystem. And ecosystems operate independently, but in such a way that you're bound together by the people that pull them together and the people who make them work. So in answering our question here, I think, it isn't a piece of paper somewhere. It isn't it isn't something on a wall somewhere. It's about the people see true intrinsic value in two best-in-class operations and organizations working collaboratively in such a way that, the end goal being the customer's success is the most important priority for both sides. So we work together that way. I think it's kind of really the secret sauce to the whole process.
Okay. And the second part of that question, can you share both your experience in moving from product development to commercial production? Maybe talk about some difficulties that were faced and how those difficulties were overcome.
Yeah, for us, we're on that journey right now, moving into the commercial launch. We have a significant investment that we made last year and into this year, and we'll be completing it at the end of this year and launching our new commercial line that we're putting in place in Carlsbad. It's the journey from the drug substance level through to our customers. A number of opportunities are late stage that we're working on with our friends at KBI, and those are going to be absolutely essential questions that we have to answer for our customers. It's really about an experienced team. We talked about the regulatory, quality and regulatory experience base, and making sure that we're ready at the drug product level, the drug substance is ready at their level as well, and that when we marry these two pieces together, that we haven't come across that yet, but when we do come across that on a commercial level, that we've been synchronized throughout that whole process, that we've been very much in collaboration throughout that whole process with you. I think it's a great opportunity ahead for us in 25 and in 26. But I think it really comes down to some of the spirit of the relationship we've talked about already. But I do think some of the challenges that you face are you don't know really exactly what you'll come across, but when you do, I know that the team will figure it out. It's all about the people.
Not sure I have a whole lot to add, because very well said. I will say the supplement, it's a yes and, is we grow together.
Yeah.
And I think, the opportunity is when we look at certainly where we've come from and then, where we're going, the way that we are able to not just grow based on the needs of our portfolios and the customers, but really ultimately advance into what this next phase is. And we're so excited to support you, is very opportunistic given what we're seeing in the market. I think it's a fantastic time to grow together.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question is pretty simple. Do you work with customers outside the U.S., specifically Europe?
Yes. Global.
Yeah.
All right. That was a softball. Okay, we've got one more question here that we're going to take before we wrap things up. This attendee comments that, I understand this may vary project to project, but could you please comment, based on your experience, how many batches you recommend to manufacture as part of the tech transfer process to ensure optimal transfer? I'm
looking at my friend over here, Scott, who's a pro at this stuff. it's typically, through the process, we like to do obviously we've done some development work. We get to that point when you're talking about moving forward. If we can get a development lot in, we'd like to do those if we can. If we can't, and that's sometimes not possible, we do a lot of coordination work ahead of that before that first lot is actually produced on our side. Right. I would defer to you on.
No, yes, and I think it's interesting because we've seen different programs that have different needs, and really given the timelines, needs of the customer, needs of the program, it's offering them that bespoke model that's going to ensure we are delivering for success. So first and foremost, what are the needs? What are the priorities? What is the timeline that we're looking to achieve? And then how do we obviously set up what that program is asking for in such a way that we can maximize the return?
And what stage it's at. It's a really important thing.
It's difficult to give a specific, precise answer other than ensuring that we are understanding the needs of the customer is the most important priority. And really, ultimately, that guides how we advise and provide them what that experience, best-in-class experience can be.
Agreed.
Does that answer your question, Tim?
All right, well said. I hope it answers the person's question. But it sounds great. Sounds good to me. All right, there's no more questions here. So if there are any other questions and we didn't get to them, both Wayne and Katie do have your contact details, and they will follow up with you directly after the event's concluded. So with that, we will come to the conclusion of today's session. So thank you again, Wayne and Katie, for talking to us today, sharing your insights, your expertise. We really appreciate it. Thank you again to today's sponsors, Argonaut Manufacturing Services and KBI Biopharma. If you're interested in learning more about them, again, you can just simply click their logos on the page there. And mostly thank you to everyone out there in the audience for your attendance and participation today. We really appreciate it. This session will be archived for 1 year on our website, contractpharma.com. And you'll also be receiving an email from us shortly when the session is available for on-demand viewing. So thanks very much for joining us, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.